Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Disappointed that there won't be a new 27-inch iMac? Here's what you can buy instead. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you can read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So I mentioned before how it's very unlikely that Apple's planning to come out with a 27-inch iMac. They have the current 24-inch iMac and just that one size. Recently it's been reported in the news that Apple has officially stated this now. Now, it doesn't rule out that Apple may change its mind in the future or come out with something even bigger than 27 inches. It's unlikely we'll see anything different than the 24-inch iMac for a while. But if you really want to replace your 27-inch iMac with something new, you actually have a lot of options. None of them are going to be ideal and exactly what you want. In some respects like design, it may not be as good. But in other respects like performance, it will certainly be better than any 27-inch iMac you may have now. So first let's remember what we're replacing here. The last 27-inch iMac was the 2019 5K model. So it had a fantastic screen and it came with an Intel either i5 or i9 processor. So either a pretty weak one, even for the time, or a fairly powerful one. You can get storage options similar to now, and the price range was $1,800 for the lowest end version. But if you wanted that i9 processor for decent performance, you were starting at $2,700. Also, there was the iMac Pro. Now the iMac Pro had a similar screen but a much more powerful Intel Xeon processor. It started with 1 terabyte of storage, but the price on this started at $5,000. So remember that. For an iMac Pro you're starting at $5,000, and for a decently powered iMac you were at $2,700. Even with base memory for both. Now, some things to consider when looking for a replacement for these. First, the design. The design is not going to be as nice as having this all-in-one nice beautiful Mac, especially if you're going with the cheaper options I'm going to show you because you're using third-party screens. Also, a lot of the cheaper screens I'm going to show you are lower quality, either 2 or 4K, although I will show you some 5K options. You're going to have to deal with more wires now. The iMac, of course, had one wire going to the wall and that was it. The keyboard and pointing device were wireless. But now you're going to have 2 power cables, one for the Mac, one for the screen, and you're going to have a cable to connect the two. I'm, of course, going to talk about getting a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio as a replacement, and those both don't come with a keyboard or a mouse or trackpad. So either you're going to have to use the ones you have now, which you may have, or you're going to have to buy those as well. You don't get those for free like you do with even the 24-inch iMac now. Also, the cheaper screens I'm going to show you don't have a webcam or speakers or a microphone. So you get those with an iMac. If you don't care about those, fine. Or if you're bringing your own webcam that provides all of those, then that's fine too. On the other hand, one advantage of separating the computer and the screen is that you can keep using the screen for your next Mac. So unlike the iMac, you can get a screen now, and if you upgrade your Mac like 4, 6, or 8 years from now, you may still be able to keep using the screen. A lot of people in similar situations have been using the same screens for more than a decade now. So I'm going to start here with the really low budget option if you really want to count every dollar. So you can get a base Mac Mini, and I'm not going to talk about the 250 gigs of storage Mac Mini because I don't think that's enough for anybody. I think you need at least 512, half a terabyte. So that's an $800 machine, and it's got 5 gigs of RAM, which is fine for home and casual use. If you know you need more memory for like intense things that you're doing, then certainly get that. But this is for a low budget model. So that's $800, and you pair that with a 2K screen. So a 2K screen is going to still get you the 27 inches. It's going to be the same size, but it's not going to have anywhere near the number of pixels or resolution. For some people, that's fine. I know a lot of people like these screens. So if you really want to save some money, you could get one for under $200 here. Now, of course, a screen like this isn't going to have the webcam, speakers, or mic, so keep that in mind. But the total price here comes to $1,000, assuming you already have a pointing device and a keyboard. This ViewSonic screen is just an example, by the way. I just looked up some on Amazon. There are a bunch of 2K screens like this that are $200 or less. The quality is definitely going to be far less than a 5K iMac, but it is a budget option. If you want to go up a level, then you can go to a 4K screen. So I have used a screen like this, the predecessor to this model. In fact, it's an LG 4K screen. It looks great. It's not as good as a 5K screen, but it is 27 inches. And I'm also going to upgrade the Mac here a little bit, going with the M2 Pro processor in the Mac Mini and doubling the RAM and doubling the drive space. So that's going to bring the price to $1,500 for the Mac. These screens come for about $300. So you're looking at $1,800, which is the price of that base level iMac from 2019. You're not getting as good a screen here, but you are getting definitely a superior computer. You're of course still missing the webcam, speakers, mic, and the keyboard and pointing device. So you've got to bring your own for that. And here's that display, by the way. And a lot of these displays are available also in 32-inch versions if you want to, say, compensate for the fact that it's not a 5K screen by just having one that's bigger. You can do that. Now let's say we really want to replace the iMac and keep the 5K display. You don't have to jump right to Apple Studio Display. There are some 5K displays on the market. For instance, LG also has a 27-inch ultra-fine 5K for just under $1,000. So if we pair that up with the same Mac we had before, that brings the price up quite a bit because this screen's a lot more expensive. But you're still looking at $2,500 cheaper than that i9 iMac from before, and definitely more powerful with that M2 Pro processor in it. And here's that display. And of course, a big advantage of this display is it does actually have a webcam, mic, and speakers built into it. So for features, you're really there now at the 5K iMac level. But what if you want to take the design up a notch? Well, of course, you can go with Apple Studio Display. That's going to be an even better display, and it's going to have the webcam, a really good webcam, and really good speakers and microphones as well. You get the nice Apple logo on the back. It looks nice. It's beautiful, but it's more expensive at $1,600. So paired with the same Mac Mini, you're looking at $3,100 at this point. Now, before we start talking about replacing an iMac, we should point out that it is a valid option to consider today's iMac. With the iMac, you go back to that nice design where you just have that one wire coming out of the iMac. It's all in one with the nice logo, and it's got a great looking screen. It's got the webcam, it's got speakers, it's got microphones, and all of that. The only drawback is it's not 27 inches, so it's not a true replacement. It's only a 4.5K screen, not a 5K screen. However, that still may be a big advantage when compared with some of the cheaper options I showed you before. And if you've dismissed this model offhand simply because it's not 27 inches, I encourage you to at least spend some time in front of it in an Apple store or a Best Buy or something so you could see what it's really like, because it's quite a value. The low-end model is cheaper than what I'm showing here, but I want to make sure you start off with at least 512 gigs of storage. It's still quite a bargain considering you get a new keyboard and a mouse for that price as well. Now let's go on to look at if you're replacing an iMac Pro. Remember, this was a $5,000 machine. We're going to, instead of using a Mac Mini, use a Mac Studio now. So that's a more expensive model. But you can get a Mac Studio with the M2 Max processor in it. Very powerful for only $2,000. And we don't have to upgrade that at all because it comes with 32 gigs of RAM and a half a terabyte drive already. So we just add that 4K screen to it, and $2,300 gets you something with a lot of power. You're still missing the webcam, speakers, and mic though. If you go to the 5K display, then that's $1,000 there. You're still looking at $3,000. Quite a discount from the $5,000 of the previous iMac Pro. Here you've got the camera and you've got speakers and a microphone and all of that. Now, let's say we wanted to instead go with a nice design and get the Apple Studio Display. That only adds $600. So you're still way under the $5,000 and you're all Apple at this point. And if you really wanted to get closer to the $5,000 level, you can go up to the Mac Studio with the M2 Ultra processor in it. That's the same processor that's in the Mac Pro. So this is a very powerful machine. The base model itself comes with 64 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte drive. And you're looking at something that's far superior in every way except for the number of wires that you'll have on your desk to the previous iMac Pro. Now I keep mentioning that keyboard and a pointing device are not included with the Mac Mini and Mac Studio. So if you don't already have your own, you have to factor that into the price. They did come with the previous iMacs and they do come with the 24-inch iMac today. You can get the base level Magic Keyboard for $100. If you want Touch ID, it goes up to $150. With the keypad, it's $129. And with both Touch ID and the keypad, that's a $200 keyboard. If you want something really on a low budget, you can search around and find companies that make Mac keyboards. So they have the right symbols on the keys and everything for as low as $30. For pointing devices, the Magic Mouse is going to set you back $100, and the Magic Trackpad, what I use and what I recommend, it's far superior than anything else out there. I'm talking about not just mice but other trackpads and pointing devices. That's $150. But if you want to save money, of course, you can get a Bluetooth mouse for as low as $10 if you really wanted to. So there are a whole bunch of really good options if you really wanted to get a 27-inch iMac today and it's just not available, or it's time to replace your Mac and you want to go from a 27-inch iMac to something comparable today. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.